What's up, everybody? I'm Sam Pogue. I am your host, the VP of Brand at True Coach. I'm sitting down with Jim Crowell, CEO of OPEX, and a great friend and someone I've looked up to, not only in the way he runs his day-to-day life, but in the way he approaches business and what he coaches others to do. And I knew that this is a conversation that him and I could really get into some topics that help you coaches where you're at today, right now, amongst the coronavirus and quarantine life, and maybe transitioning your businesses or building online businesses. And there's a lot to know, and there's a lot behind the scenes beyond just delivering workouts and programs. And I thought that Jim and I could have a really great conversation that could highlight some steps that you guys can take away that can make this experience, whatever it might be to you, a little less scary. And while it might be the unknown, at least you're prepared with the steps that you can start taking to start bettering your situation today. So Jim, thank you for carving out some time and sitting down with us. It's always great to see your face.
Yeah, man, it's good to see you too. I know we always joke around that you're so social, and so I always appreciate coming onto the conversations because I can just be like color commentary and you're just nailing all the points. So I think we'll have a good time talking about this. I think over the last 10 days or so, I've had, let's just basically 24/7, I've been on calls with either coaches or gyms or fitness businesses or investors or you name it. And I'm trying to understand the context of the landscape that we're currently playing in. I think it's very important for anybody listening to this right now to know that there are jolts to the economy, and then there is also like a health fear. So there are multiple streams of information that feels very stressful to people right now. You know, so let's say that there's a very small pocket of something very deadly like Ebola, right? That might be very dangerous to that pocket, assuming that it doesn't spread, but it doesn't generally also impact the economy in such a uniquely destructive way. Right now, we're seeing both fear of getting sick or passing, actually dying, and we're seeing initial economic collapse. Now, I'm going to be very careful with my words. I don't think that the system is falling down. What's happening right now is that because of the lockdowns, shelter in place, etc., nobody's buying anything. And because nobody's buying anything, companies have a very, very difficult problem, which is they don't have enough revenue coming in to pay down their monthly cost structure and or their monthly cost structure plus the debt that they have on their companies. So what are companies trying to do right now? And this is not because they want to, guys. Let's be honest. Companies don't want to lay off workers. They want to be fully stocked and doing very well for their consumers. But companies are trying to figure out where to cut costs right now. So if you're a coach and you own a gym, are you going to continue to pay your coaches for floor hours or classes if you don't have them? I'm sure that many of you will try to do that for a little bit. But where this really gets important is how long does this thing last? And that's something that nobody knows. And I think I've said this on Facebook. It's something that we have to prepare for a longer, extenuating, challenging time. This is not 2 weeks. So if you've gotten locked down, until the end of March, I don't think you're coming off of lockdown at the end of March. I think you're going to be locked down very likely through April and potentially May. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but if you don't prepare for that, somewhere around April 7th, you will run out of cash. And that's what's happening right now. So I think what Sam and I are really going to try to go back and forth on is what is the reality of this situation for coaches and gym owners? Why are you seeing such a massive push into remote coaching right now? Hint, there's no other option for coaches, right? And what does that mean for the coaching industry and the gym industry? Like, are we going all online from here on out? I don't think so, just to be fair. But I do think that this is going to fundamentally change the landscape for coaches. And the reason is, and sorry, Sam, if I'm just going long-winded here, but I think the biggest reason is we are in an extremely emotional time. Extremely. And I don't care if you don't feel stressed, you are stressed because there's so many unknown scenarios that are playing out in front of your mind right now, in front of your eyes right now. That's a better way of saying it. The reason that that's important is because the more stress that comes into a scenario, two things emerge from that. Number one, we make worse decisions. That's a fact, okay? Like when you are stressed, you make worse decisions. So you need to develop mechanisms to help yourself calm down prior to making very, very big decisions. And this is not just a super acute thing, meaning I don't get punched in the face and I make a terrible decision 6 seconds after I get punched in the face. This is like if I stay stressed, I make a series of very poor decisions. So you have to, number one, you have to recognize it happens, because if you don't recognize that, you're in big trouble. So recognize that it happens. And number two, you need to develop mechanisms to calm down. You also need to develop decision-making mechanisms so that even if you aren't calmed down, somebody around you or your process can help you still come up with a better decision. So decision-making gets hit, okay? Number two, the entire landscape starts to shift underneath our feet and people start to ask themselves, what am I going to do in the future? Right? So it's like, if I'm making worse decisions and I don't know what I'm going to do in the future, where do you go? And so a lot of people are starting to think about shifting their entire business to online. Now, the reality of this is that we don't know how long this is going to last. And if you have an in-person gym, you are going to lose some clients. You are. There's no way around this thing. Okay. You also have to recognize that fewer new clients are going to come in, all things equal. Okay. If you do 100 times as much marketing, in the next 30 days, and you typically get 3 new clients a month, you might get 3 new clients, but it costs you 100 times as much marketing, content or, ad spend, whatever it is. Right. So know that. And then start to ask yourself, what is it that you are actually trying to build when we come out of this? So Sam, you were on our, daily Q&A or whenever this is going to come out. It could be today, it could be a couple days from now, but for us, it was 30 minutes ago. And you made a really good point, is that you have to make sure that you are taking care of your existing clients first and foremost. But make no mistake, guys, that is not fundamentally shifting what your future business looks like. You are simply taking care of your clients in this moment. If you are going to transition your whole business from in-person, let's call it group or hybrid or personal training or whatever, and you think that you're going to shut that model down and just be a remote coach, the reality of that is that you're going to have to completely run a new style of business. And it's very important for me to say that it's very different than the business that you're in. If you have never programmed for somebody one-to-one and all of a sudden you've got 80 group clients that you're trying to program one-to-one for, you now know what I mean about programming individually for everybody. You now also know what I mean when I say you can't charge $50 a month for online programming one-to-one. Template, okay, I get that if that's your business model. But true one-to-one, you cannot charge $50. It takes you too much time. You can't grow that business. Okay, so when you're thinking about completely changing your business, that's a conversation, me and Sam and we need to have with you, because you need to reevaluate what it takes to transition your business. And I'm telling you that in this moment, if you're truly serving your existing client base, it's going to be exceptionally difficult to completely remove what your business was and potentially will become again from this remote coaching gig. Because I've seen people try to do like the side hustle of remote coaching while they own or work in a gym. And usually what happens is they got like 5, 7, 8 clients, maybe 10. But they rely on their main income source from the gym environment. So if you don't know how to build a consistent sales funnel online, that doesn't just happen. Like it doesn't just exist because now all of a sudden you're a remote coach. So it's really important for people to think about being realistic with what model they're trying to run. So, and I can say that from experience because I run Big Dogs and we've got, 500 plus clients around the world remotely, right? We've done this game for a decade. And so we know what it takes to develop a really strong brand. And in this exact moment, in this volatile landscape, you have an opportunity to reestablish yourself as a remote coach. I'm not going to say that you don't, but make no mistake, what's going to make you a sustainable remote coach is not just writing a cool program. You have to build a brand. You have to build consistent systems. You have to think about how you're going to scale that. So it's like, if you are a remote coach on your own, are you ever going to put other coaches into your system? I don't know, right? Like maybe you will, maybe you won't, but you'll never grow past a certain point. Similar to personal training, right? It's like, once you get to a certain number, it's like, what do I do now? I hope that I can charge more, but on the remote coaching side, charging more is significantly harder than in person. Because think about it, everybody and their brother is going online right now. Everybody. I put in the chat box, in our conversation on the OPEX side, that the market is like, it's going through like a 5-year maturation process in 30 days. Right? Like, and what happens in economic maturation is that economic profit drops to zero. So that means that if you don't have a better system, a better brand, better processes, better coaches, better retention practices, contracts, the whole 9 yards, you're going to lose. Now, the only way that you can survive is if the market gets so big in terms of the demand for remote coaching that you kind of just get the scraps. Right? But think about what I have access to right now. I've got a whole team of epically good coaches on the Big Dog side, like epically good, right? They've been remote coaching for 5 to 10 years, many of them. Successfully, professionally, meaning 50 plus clients, retention rates of 95+%, and being able to generate referrals on their own. In addition, though, I've got a full-time salesperson, a full-time marketing person. Carl Hardwick and I are running the management and the strategy of this company. It's like, you think that you're going to just compete with us right away without these other things? It's very difficult. And so I'm not being negative. I'm saying if you're going to come to the party, you better be prepared and you better step up for building a brand. So it's like, if you bitch about posting on social media, you're never going to win as a remote coach. Never. You can't, because nobody knows who the fuck you are. Right? And so I know I'm just like, all of these thoughts popping into my head, but remote coaching is going to require you to do all of those sales and marketing tactics that most in-person coaches don't want to do. Because if you can't generate a digital funnel, you're dead. Now, if you tell me that you can generate enough referrals, I love it. I love referrals, right? But you better generate them every month, because you will have a churn rate. You'll lose clients every month. It's fact, right? Like, clients leave. Now, what a lot of remote coaches or new remote coaches don't think about is that the service is just a little bit less good, right? Like, let's be honest, right? You're not in front of your clients. You can do a lot of video, in which we do a lot of video with our coaches. They do 30-minute consults on video with their clients every month. They do video recordings for comments and messages, like daily, weekly for our coaches. They comment every day. Like, they are very, very good at what they do, but it's not in person, right? So what are the principles around that? If it's not quite as good, your retention rate's probably not going to be quite as good. So if your retention rate's not as good, you got to acquire more clients. Well, what is that going to mean for your business? It means that you're going to have to spend more money, whether it's in resources of your time or resources in marketing dollars or ad spend or website spend or whatever. You're going to have to spend more time. So it's just important to really think through all of these things. And I'll try to transition kind of into a new topic, but you need to think about these things if you're truly thinking about transitioning your business. What I want people thinking about right now, who are my clients? What have they been doing? What do I need them to do? And how do I make that transition most effectively to keep the most number of clients? So I'm a believer in removing as much barrier to entry as possible, right? Don't make them do a lot of work. Don't change a bunch of price points on your client. Don't do all that shit. Make it easy for them to do this. Don't ask them to be on calls with you every day. That's needy, right? Like, serve them for what they need. And the reason, obviously, why, one, we love True Coach, but why we have always been a one-to-one, model in its entirety is because we can pivot. So most every OPEX gym, it's when I was like, hey, you guys are going to have to shut, whether you're shut now or not. But all you have to do is transition your clients nowhere. They just are going to work out at home. All of our OPEX gyms already use True Coach. They already program one-to-one. They already do lifestyle and nutrition and accountability through True Coach. All they need to do is maintain the relationship. I'm not saying it's easy, but from a number of steps standpoint, that's what they need to do. If you're not used to checking in with your clients one-to-one, you better start now, because they will dump your ass very quickly if you don't. I was chatting with Chris Cooper from Two Brain Business last week, and we were talking about how effective what we're seeing a lot of group gyms do, right, is like, all I need is a Zoom room, and I'm just going to do classes with Zoom people. Now, I'm not opposed to doing that. I think that there's something interesting about that. But Chris brought up the point. They have 850 gyms that they work with. The average length of time that those people are staying in a virtual environment, 3 to 6 days. 3 to 6 days, man. So wow. Even Chris is saying, hey, you're a group gym, you better get to one-to-one. You better do it, because that's going to give you longer retention. And I'm in the same mindset as Chris right now. It's like, it's survival, right? Because, most coaches and gym owners in the micro gym game, they do not have $100,000 in cash sitting around to just weather this thing. Not going to happen. So you have to generate income. Generating income, though, in this moment is more so about saving income and saving revenue from existing clients. That, so far, from what we have seen, is best done one-to-one online. And I'm not talking about, 60-minute sessions, personal training online. I'm talking about a true individual design remote program, where you're writing the program, you're commenting, you're a 30-minute consult once per month. And otherwise, you're just communicating as need be, mainly through True Coach. That has worked the best for OPEX gyms. That's worked the best for the group gyms that we speak to through OPEX. And obviously, you just heard the Chris Cooper piece that's working for Two Brain. You have to make that move right now. But you're not necessarily trying to become a full-time remote coach. Doing that, which you can, requires the rest of it. Brand, systems, processes, scale plans, all of that stuff.
It's so funny that we're having this conversation now in 2020, because if we were having this conversation in 2007, 2008, it was get out of one-on-ones, go to multi-person, go to semi-private, go to group fitness style. And look at how it's turned. I know you're an economics geek and you love this. With this being said, we're watching, you just called it, we're seeing a massive switch in the value proposition of training in this business. And this is one of the biggest industries out there. There's reasons why companies like Amway make all these supplements and whatnot. This health and wellness industry is huge. Mm-hmm. And now it just got entirely condensed into one funnel, if you will. Yep. And everybody's digesting the same message. So if you've been a mechanical stress, progressive overload, linear periodization, barbell this entire time, and like, hey, but now we can get just as good as results in person at home. I'm like, wait a minute, right? Everything just switched, right? And the message has been off, and the game is now changed, and you're kind of left in the spot. Where do you see, not to get too far forecast, but where do you see us coming out of this? And maybe that might help coaches formulate their thoughts.
Make sure that I answer that specific question, because I don't want to go too far off, but I think you hit something that was very important. You mentioned, oh shoot, I just lost it. Well, anyways, forget about what that was going to be. Maybe I'll remember it in a second. But I don't think that the gym industry goes away. I don't think that's going away, because one of the things that I'm a big believer in, like a Warren Buffett long-term strategy and long-term investment play. And one of the things that he says is that you invest in companies that have what's called franchise businesses. Now, I'm not talking about Orange Theory F45. I'm talking about businesses where consumers need the product often. Okay, so people need fitness often, right? Like, we're already out of shape beyond belief as a society. That's not going to change. I also think that going online in the long term is for a very unique audience. I don't think that most people, if given the choice, if they experienced both for like 6 months, right? I don't think most people are going to choose online as their first choice. I also don't think group training's going away, for gosh sakes, right? Because so many people like the camaraderie and the sweat togetherness and the fun of group.
Yep.
So I think it would be very foolish of us to think that it's going away. The interesting thing, though, that is going to happen, and right, like, let me put my big dog's hat back on for a second. I'm looking for companies and coaches to buy.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, if you ran out of cash, but you're an amazing coach, I might have a platform to save you time, save you cash, give you safety, right? Like, that is a beautiful option for some coaches out there. Now, let's extrapolate this out to like massive industry. The franchises, remember, all of their models are built on their franchisees surviving and winning. And all of them are shut down right now. So the franchises that have cash in the bank are going to look for acquisitions right now. So the industry is going to consolidate. It's going to. The question is who comes out kind of on the top of it. I tend to think that in fitness, there are such unique audiences that we won't just say that like only this one company came out the best. Just not realistic, right? So I do think that you will have a direct leader in most of those bucketed environments, right? So the market right now is trying to figure out who owns digital. Mm-hmm. So you got Peloton, which probably has the best brand, right? But now Equinox is in the game, and Flywheel's not technically in the game anymore, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, all of these other companies are now online. Imagine that timing, by the way. And you also have probably a big consolidation that's going to happen at the franchise level, where I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not predicting this. I don't think it will. But imagine if like Orange Theory Incorporated bought F45 and Pure Bar and blah, 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 right? Like, now all of a sudden there is a portfolio of companies that can own the individual spaces. The way that this plays out is who has the best business model to come out of this. And right now that requires a balance sheet, so assets and liabilities, right? It requires a balance sheet that's not too fat. You need to have cash. You got to have debt structure that's below the cash significantly, right? And I'm saying most coaches don't think about a bunch of debt, right? That's not how their businesses are structured, but the big companies do. And what's going to happen is revenue is going to drop, so their cash intake's going to drop. Their debt is going to come due, and that's going to happen. And when that happens, they're either going to go bankrupt or they're going to get bought. And so investment companies, big chains, they will look for acquisition targets right now. But I think that the whole industry will come back because it's a franchise product.
Yeah.
Right? People need it.
Totally. So it sounds like the way this conversation's been going is the way we're really looking at it is amongst this chaos, we have to look at like, let's distinguish the context at which we're dealing with the business. Are we addressing a solution to help our current existing models? First and foremost, getting our revenue stream at least up and running where we aren't messing with the numbers. Don't change the price. Don't give them something else to think about. Deliver value in the way that you best know how to do that. If that's individual design and 30-minute consults, if that's Zoom calls and one-on-one sessions live, we got to figure out that structure. When we're assessing the future and understanding what the potential is coming out, we have the opportunity to develop maybe a message or a brand or a business out of this and come out of this in a better position. And it looks at, we need to distinguish what we really need to work on. You know, as I'm hearing you talk about this, it's not like, oh, go get this technology and go get signed up for this and go sign up for this platform, although we're talking about True Coach, but it's been a lot of like, oh, we got to look at the big picture of the business first and foremost, understanding where is that cash to debt liability line and where are you at and how long can you survive and what do you need to get in the door going first? Like, we got to look at your survival first, then we can look at the planning and growing.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely accurate. You, as a business owner, and this, by the way, works if you're a coach working in a gym or as a gym owner, for example. Most gyms don't have the resources to completely rebrand and come out of this thing as a brand new business because they don't have the capital to get off the ground, right? Like, you're not going to completely rebrand and change your service and do all this other stuff for no cost. Now, if you're like, oh, I could spend $5 and get a logo and like change my Facebook page, it's like, that's not repositioning. That's just doing a couple things. And like, you have to spend time building up a brand. So you must know that if you don't have cash today, you don't have the ability to come out of this as a different brand, which means hunker the fuck down and serve your clients as best as possible so that when we come out of this, I don't know when that's going to be, when we come out of this, you have survived where a lot of others won't have survived. And if you can get back into your business, I'm great with the remote coaching side hustle. I'm great with you going full-time remote as long as you know the trade-offs. Yep. But when we come out of this thing, the market is going to be very interesting. The market's going to want health and fitness because they're going to be, they would have been cooped up for however long, and they're going to want it. So they're going to try to figure out where to get it. The businesses that went out of business during this thing won't be there. And the market's going to be like, I want it. So the people who survive it will have opportunities, even if they don't switch their model a lot. But what I need everybody who's listening to this call to know is that you better have enough cash to survive it. And you better learn going into the future that you need to grow your business, even if all that means is to grow the cash and the equity on your balance sheet much faster than you grow debt. Okay, now think about this. I'm going to try to give an example and tell me if this is confusing. Let's say that I'm a local gym and for 5 years, I made $5,000 a month in profit, okay? I didn't pay myself a salary for all 5 years. So every single month, I took that $5,000 in profit and I put it in my pocket, right? Month one of the 5 years, let's say I had $10,000 in cash to get the business up and running. Theoretically, after 5 years, you still have $10,000 in the bank. But let's say, and keep in mind, you wouldn't have immediately made $5,000, so you have to build up to that $5,000. Let me just preface, right? But let's say that each year, you've added some expenses to continue to make $5,000. Things get more expensive. You got to do some marketing. You got to pay some coaches, whatever. Now imagine this, right? Like, imagine if your cost structure day one was $3,000 a month, rent, whatever else. You got to pay $3,000. Let's say that after 5 years, your cost structure is $10,000 a month. What happens if your revenue goes to zero for 1 month in this scenario? Your entire cash structure is wiped out in 1 month. You haven't added equity and dollars to your bank account as you've grown your cost structure. So in this scenario, your cost structure almost acts as debt because you have no revenue. So why are Sam and I saying that you have to take care of your clients? Because they're your lifeline of revenue right now. And why are we also saying that you have to protect your cost structure? Because that's going to be what puts you out of business if your revenue drops. Extremely, extremely important math and accounting piece right there that we're trying to work with our coaches all around the world on right now. Because a lot of coaches forget that when they own a gym, they call it profit, but really what it is their salary. So if you need that $5,000 a month to eat, to have rent paid, etc., and all of a sudden that 5,000 goes to zero, or God forbid it goes to negative, not only is your business bankrupt, you're not eating. So I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I hope I'm not coming off that way. I want people to be prepared. And so you got to have cash in the bank. I don't care how you freaking get it right now. Ethically, okay?
What? Okay.
Yeah, that one almost got away from me in a big way there. So, as long as you ethically are getting cash, right? And as long as you're not doing some kind of crazy like payday loan at like 1,000% interest, find a way to get cash so that you can support this thing for the short run. And then exactly like Sam is saying, that gives you potential to make some pivots. But if you run out of cash, you can't make pivots at all. And then, you know, the people who are calling this an opportunity are right. But also the people who are calling this destruction are right. So there's going to be a lot of people that get destroyed, and there's going to be a lot of people who come out of this stronger and better position. Doesn't mean that they made a bunch of profit, but they will be positioned to accept all of those people who are now wanting fitness. The one more piece on that last question is, imagine the millions and millions of people who now in 7 days know what the term remote coaching is. Millions. Like nobody's ever heard of it. And it's like, what's that remote coaching thing that all these coaches are talking about? So again, if I put my big dog's hat on, I'm like, thanks fitness world, because now you've made a lot more of the market understanding that there's this product. Now all I have to do on the big dog side is to say, hey guys, imagine if you could have a remote coaching company that's been in business for 10 years doing this, coaching the best in the world, getting results, building systems, building a team. How are you going to compete against that right now? And here's the answer. You have to out-service us. You have to out-brand us, out-content us. It's possible. It's possible, but that's going to be what it takes.
And along the branding side, you know, a point I really want to touch on, and I kind of touched on it along with the quip I gave about the mechanical stress coach, right? The one who's really about the barbell, which I come from powerlifting. I've been that guy. I've been that guy for many, many years. But now when we look at, okay, we just talked heavy finance, and I want to lighten up a little bit and talk about a brand for a second and say, who is it that you're really telling people you are? What is it that you do? Right? Jim is talking about from Big Dogs as an organization where they have coaches working with 150 plus one-on-one clients as individuals by themselves. Like one coach worked with 150 people and does it taking vacations every month. And like, it's pretty impressive because that's how he's wired to do it. But with they have a very specific message that Big Dog sends out to who they attract. Now, that isn't everybody. That may not be your message, and that's okay. So that's where Jim talks about, like, you can outwork them, yep. Right? And you could do it in their space. It would be much more unlikely to get to them in the same space, but you could carve out a niche. But sure. If you're I help middle-aged executives find fitness when they're home injured, whatever that might be. I'm making it up on the fly, yep. Where it's like, oh, that's me, right? I'm not a CrossFit Games athlete. Like, oh, and you've been a coach for 10 years? Okay. Like, that's a much different conversation. So it turns into, what are you telling people you do? And does your experience line up with that? Right? Yeah. Like, that's a super important thing. Like, do you have the credibility in that space that tells them, like, as Jim's saying, like, Big Dog's been doing it now for 10 years. Like, by the time you come into remote coaching, no one's been doing it at their level for that long.
Yeah. I think that particularly when you go online, there's a couple of avenues. So broad strokes, like 60,000 feet, you have to have something to say. Now, I'm saying that very, very broadly, right? If you come out and you don't have any stance about fitness, if you're just like, I like fitness, nobody gives a shit, right? But if you have a particular style or stance against fitness or stance with fitness, I love group training, I hate group training, whatever it is, right? People who have those same beliefs will start to listen to you. Okay, so you need listeners before you can have clients. Now, as we start to kind of drop down from 60,000 feet, the way that you need to do that, particularly online, is you have to do that through your own story, right? So who am I? What do I do? What do I believe about fitness? And I damn well better practice what I believe about fitness if people are going to find me credible, right? So a lot of coaches aren't doing what they're saying they want their clients to be doing. That looks extremely inauthentic, especially in today's world where people are very skeptical of what a message online could be. Secondarily, you have to make sure that if you're telling a great story, you have to tell your clients stories as well, because that gives a ton of social proof about how effectively you are coaching your people. Thirdly, then you have to project out to the market what it could be, right? So like I'm a big believer in story and story arcs and everything. So when you're thinking about this thing, right, just so pause the episode right now, take out a pen and pencil or open a notepad and write this down, right? Because this is storytelling 101. I'm not the expert. Sam would know this better than me. But if you are going to tell great stories, you have to first start with who the hero is, right? The hero is your prospective client that you want to work with. Back to Sam's point, are they a mom? Are they a dad? Are they an athlete? Are they an executive? Doesn't matter, but you have to meet the hero. When you meet the hero, then what happens is there's a villain, right? Something comes in and something disrupts the balance of the hero's life. Now, in the real world, that disruption happens to your prospective client. They might feel out of shape. They might feel like they want to get stronger. They might feel like they're not performing as well as they need to as a parent or as an executive or whatever. So that's kind of, they feel that maybe it's under the surface. But what you need to do, you need to talk about how you overcome your villains, which is similar to your clients, your prospective clients, and how your clients have overcome their villains, because that brings this disruption to the surface with your clients, right? Because you're trying to solve a problem for them. You're not just writing them workouts. You're trying to make them feel better, perform better, enjoy life more. Now, once you have that set up, now what happens is this person starts to look for a guide. Like, who can help me, figure this thing out? And that's where you need to be able to be found, right? You have to be on social. You have to have a website. You have to have all these different things socially. You have to be in other people's conversations, in, local Facebook groups, etc. So other people can find you because they have the problem that you are the guide who can solve. Now, generally what happens there is they try to go with the easiest solution, right? Why is it that great online coaches, one-to-one, aren't usually the first option for people? Too much money, too much accountability, blah, 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 right? Same thing for big dogs. We deal with this all the time. So they go to some bullshit template that doesn't really help them, or they go to some coach who's not paying attention to them or whatever, and they're like, oh, this isn't really what I wanted. This isn't helping me solve my problem. So that's the easy solution that doesn't work. And they do this until they finally take, and I love this terminology from either Story Arcs or Tony Robbins or whatever, until they take massive action, which is they step up to the fucking plate and they pay the money that they should for the coach that's going to help them. That can be you, whoever is listening to this call. That can be you if you've got all your processes set up to work effectively. And then they have to go slay the dragon, meaning you have to hold them accountable while they are doing this hard work, which clearly they didn't do before because they still had this disruption in their life. If they were doing the work, they wouldn't be disrupted, okay? So once you are helping them do that, what do? They now start to help you go back up to the top of the story arc to get the new people in. But where a lot of people forget is that you have to talk about what your client's life looks like after they slay the dragon. And that is what the going back up to the next set of heroes, i.e. more clients into your bucket. That's how you do it. So that to me is, from a storytelling standpoint, briefly, right? Like we could do hours on this, but,
sure.
but briefly, that is what you need to create. And if you're going to do this remotely, you must do this digitally. And storytelling digitally, like we forget, right? The companies that have massive budgets and incredible equipment and really, really good storytellers who are thinking about this all day, they can tell amazing stories. We as local coaches, all we have is our authenticity and our care for our clients, amongst other things, okay? So don't take that too far. We have to empathetically reach out to our audience and bring them in and help them before they become our clients. That's what builds trust, right? So it's like, if I help somebody with a piece of content or a direct message that helps them right now, they see some content I wrote, and then one of their friends is like, oh yeah, like I go to Sam, he's an amazing coach. They're like, in, right? But if the content's not there, then the referral might not matter to that client, and vice versa. If the referral is there, but what did I just say? If you get a referral and the content's not there, they might not become a client. Or if you have the content but not the referral, they might not become. So it's like, you have to build this ecosystem.
And guys, where this gets tied in, I know we kind of went from finance and economics to now storytelling. And really, this is all sits in the top level of this idea of moving from this in-person focused business to now this online world. And why we got to this point was because when you're an in-person coach, whether that's delivering a group fitness experience, individual one-on-one, every single little pat on the shoulder, hey, how you doing? How was last night? Hey, did you have a beer? What would you go to dinner at last night with your wife? Those are all little tiny pieces and little touch points that build the relationship up. When you move digitally, you lose all of those. The only thing you have that are those touch points are the text messages, the blog posts, the comments on the workouts inside of True Coach, the emails, the blog, whatever your outbound stuff is, that is now your only touch point into making that person feel a part of you. So if I'm not texting Jim, you know, hey man, how you doing this morning? How many mangoes did you eat last night? And it's like, oh damn, dude, I crushed like 6 bags. And like, oh, me too. Okay, right? But like, I would have to do that. Like, we wouldn't have that little friendly touch point if I didn't think to reach out and text him. So now as coaches, you lost all those in-person moments that you're used to having with people. Part of this making sure that your clients feel good is also about making sure that you're being consistent with that and helping make sure that you're finding time to connect with them and making sure that they feel good. And even if they don't get back to you, they saw your text, right? Hey, hope you and the family are doing well, right? That goes a long, long way into making sure that that person knows that you're there, that you're the person. And through all of this, they thought about me. Like they're going, the world is like, they lost all their clients and they stopped to ask how me and my family were doing, right? It's those little things, those little touch points that build your brand. And when you're an in-person coach, your actions build your brand. When you're online, you need the other things.
For sure, for sure. And I think it's important to clarify, you don't want to become your client's best friends, right? Like that's not this goal. So these touch points are coaching touch points. They are empathetic touch points, right? They are asking how you are, but it's not designed for you to then get in a 40-minute conversation about the Netflix shows that they're binging, right? You have to maintain your position as the guide, because nobody's going to pay you $200, $300, $400 a month to talk with them about Netflix, approximately, right? So it's important that you maintain progression in their entire experience with you. Now, in this moment where most people are having to do at-home workouts, imagine most coaches, to your point, Sam, who used to be like the reps and sets and that was everything that mattered. That doesn't matter hardly at all right now because most people are at home. So you must build relationships with your clients. If you have existing relationships with people in personal training or your group training gym or whatever, you have to spend some extra time thinking about how you're going to overcome the digital challenge that you face, because it's incredibly crucial that you continue that coaching relationship. When you do that, they will stay longer, right? So most people I suspect when we come out of this, a lot of your members who were loyal members, if they don't want to go online, they will want to probably come back to your gym. You just got to get there, right? So your goal right now is to maintain clients as long as you possibly can. Now, think about what I'm saying right now. I'm saying you're maintaining people. You're not trying to build up the business. Now, I'm not going to go back into the conversation we've already had, but that is a very different focal point, right? Like, this is why, Sam, and I think you need to focus on your clients so much, is because if you dump 50% of your clients overnight, you're in a very, very bad position. So you have to take care of them. You've got to do the work now to keep them on, so that when we do come out of this thing, you can, have a runway of actually winning in what that model is. But it's a difficult time. So you want to try to attract new clients. I like to use the term, like, if you're going to try to attract new clients right now, even online, you have to start in and move out, meaning you have to start with your tightest network, friends, family, direct peers, your closest clients. And you have to have great language to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's how I can help you. Here's why it's going to be beneficial to you. Da, 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 da. That same story arc, right? You just got to do it quickly, I suppose. And you got to start with them and try to get essentially referrals in the door. So you got to go through those folks. You got to get introductions. You got to get on the phone. All of those things are important. It's just going to be harder than you're used to. So there is opportunity to get some clients in. You just got to get creative with it. You got to be very consistent in reaching out. But I am not saying that you should just automatically be like, I'm never going to own a gym again. I'm going remote coaching. Like, that's a very different conversation.
You brushed on a topic earlier, and I don't know how many people are going to catch it out of the gate, but you mentioned time as a cost. And then we were just talking about, okay, if we're going to start from the center, and we're going to start with our closest, tightest knit group, our client, that Grandma Betty's been training with me for 13 years. She's done 17 powerlifting competitions. She's a boss. She ain't going anywhere. So it turns into, like, we also talked about referrals. And while we didn't say it in this particular call, a referral is the most cost-effective lead you could possibly ever get. It's the highest likely to convert. It's the cheapest, and it took the least amount of effort because you've already put it in on the front end with that other relationship. Guys, we're in a time now where all of your coworkers are talking about this, or all your clients and their coworkers are talking about the same exact thing. So if one person's doing really well with their fitness because you're doing a kick-ass job with them, guess who they're talking to all day, every day? And that's all their coworkers. And if you want to look at getting new business that way, do it without being, if you don't have a hard time putting out external marketing, service someone so well that they just start passing your name on to other people because the experience is so great at this very moment. And that's going to be a cheaper lead from you than having to go create a piece of content that you post on social, that you hope brings you back someone that you have to do a 30-minute call with and then get onboarded, right? Like, the time, like, that piece of content, everything, that took you 7 hours. Well, yep. This referral came to you. That was pretty much, it's right there in your lap. Right?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm going to push back, and I know you would do the exact same, is you, oh man, I'm trying to think of how to word this the best. Well, I'll just be very blunt. Yeah. You made the statement that if you're not very good at doing public facing social media, and you kind of move back to referral, fuck that. If you're not good at social media and you want to have any type of remote game, you better get on social media. Totally. right now. So I know you'd think the same things, but I think it's important for people to hear that from us because you don't have a choice. Yeah. Right now, you don't have a database or a bank of success stories. You don't have a bunch of images you can use. You don't have unbelievable infographics and da-da-da-da-da. You don't have Sam as your VP of brand, all that stuff. You have to be on social media because you are the story that people will connect to. You have to be authentic about what you're doing, how you're training, what's working for you, what's not working for you. My wife, we were joking around about mansplaining and femsplaining. You don't have to be a prick about, how you're doing fitness, right? Like, nobody wants to hear that, but you do have to have something to say, right? Like, how are you going through this thing and how can you provide support for people? right? Like I do something that's so stupid. Like I'm doing like a daily whistling thing right now because I'm good at whistling and people like when I whistle. So I'm like, I've never put it online before because I was fairly uncomfortable doing it. It's like, I'm the CEO of a couple companies, right? Like I'm whistling online for God's sake, you know, but
and
people,
it's so good.
yeah, but people like it. And it's like, I'm not trying to, you can hear it in my voice. I'm not lying to people. This is going to be very challenging, but there are really important times where you have to take a breath. You have to calm yourself. And this goes back to decision making, right? So I can have this conversation with a bunch of people, then they can go find me on Instagram, listen to some whistling, right? And calm the fuck down so that they can make better decisions, right? Because some folks are going to listen to this and get kicked in the teeth, you know, and like perception wise. Yep. So you're going to have to take a couple of breaths before you make some massive decision. But I want people to know what the reality of this thing is. And the true reality from an economic standpoint in our fitness business world is that we don't know when it's going to end, and the uncertainty around it is real. And so uncertainty breeds, you know, in the stock market, it breeds lower stock prices because people don't buy as much. So we're in a time where people aren't going to buy as much. You can't sell as much because you don't have a physical location to do it. So you're going to have to get creative and work your ass off to hold your clients for one and to build a brand now, whether you stay online or not. I don't care if you've got 16 Instagram followers. If they are rabidly interested in what you're doing, you can build off of that, right? But you got to have something to say, and you got to be consistent with what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely 100%. And I say the social media piece coming from like, man, if like there's a few people, if you've been in the game a long time, some of you might not even need it, but very like these day and age, it's not really a thing. Yep. And it's like, shit, like it's a game. Like I struggle with it sometimes because I do this kind of stuff so much for work that it's like, I don't step into it for me as a person on my own channel. You talk about whistling. I'm like, oh shit. Like I got to start doing, like, I just put my own first little thing out yesterday on like productivity and time management. And it's like, oh, cause it's been a journey I've been going through. And it seems so odd to share that because I don't feel I'm good at it yet. But like I've been posting about my journey for so long, people are like, no, we want to hear what you're doing. And I'm like, oh,
so, yeah, and that's such a good point. Like I'm such a nerd on behavioral economics and everything. And people, so we want to see people overcome stuff. Generally speaking, right? Like we're in this fitness industry. We're not in it because we want everybody to be angry and pissed all the time. I know that some of us get angry and pissed sometimes, but whatever, right? Like we want to help people. And so the people that we're trying to attract most likely want to be helped or help others or be the best versions of themselves. So if you're struggling with something, I'd highly encourage you to talk about it because it's authentic, it's vulnerable, right? People connect with you better when they hear that vulnerability. And so like one of the best cultural pieces for people is the book, the Culture Code from Daniel Coyle. And I'm a big fan of that because he lays it out basically in a 3 bullet point, right? How do you build great culture, which I'm likening culture to being able to acquire and retain clients, right? You have to build safety, belonging, and future. So what don't people feel right now? They don't feel safe, whether that's because they're afraid of getting the virus or they don't feel like they're going to have a job or have a business. That feels very, very unsafe. Just go to Maslow's, right? Like if you don't have safety, there's none of this like enlightenment shit. The people who are selling enlightenment right now are not going to sell a damn thing, right? Except to people who have like infinite wealth, you know, and are already socially isolated. Right? Safety is going to be the product that people are going to buy right now because we're afraid. Secondly, if you can develop belonging, this is why Zoom and webinars and Facebook groups and everything are going to be just massive right now because people want others to feel like they are a part of something. And by the way, that something could be a one-to-one coach-to-client relationship. And imagine how powerful that could be to somebody right now who literally is socially isolated by definition. Like that's massive. Like Just getting on a call, me and you, Sam, I'm more connected to you, and I know that you're more connected to me. And if we had other people on this webinar, we'd be more connected to them. Yeah, I just did a coffee talk online with Carl Paoli on Saturday. And one of the things I just love about Carl is that he's just like, hey, let's just all hang out and you know, let's just connect. It's like, that is extremely powerful, and it's extremely powerful right now. And then if you add the third layer of teaching and showing people how there's a future and what they're doing, maybe in fitness we want to call that a progression, all of a sudden people get on board. Show them how they're going to be safe, show them how they're going to belong. I shouldn't say show them. Actionably do for them what makes them safer, actionably do for them what makes them more belong to a group or to you, and actionably help them see what can come in the future. You do that, you'll keep your people longer, and you might attract some new ones better.
Yeah. Something I do want to touch on, and we've brushed over it a little bit, and I just want to address it straight in the face. What's the right time, or how do we know it's okay to start trying to acquire a new business? You lead multiple different businesses right now, Big Dogs obviously being one of them, and you got coaches, and you're dealing with this on a massive scale, right? A much bigger scale than one business. How are you coaching people, and what are you saying in terms of when it's the right time to go out and start prospecting new clients, or how does that look? And is there any overarching rules that we should follow right now to make sure that we don't look bad?
Awesome question. I'm gonna try to hit a couple different pieces here. As leaders, I'm a big believer that we need to lead our people through actions and through, let's just call it style. And I don't mean style like fashion style. I mean style like, if I'm visibly upset and angry and stressed all the time on these calls, my team will feel more upset and angry and stressed and et cetera, right? Like, I need to project strength, not in an aggressive way, but strength in a, like, people need to know they can come to me and I will have their back, right? And if I don't have my own back, it'll be harder for them to see how I could have their back. Now, I'm not saying that I don't show vulnerability, right? Like, on one of our team calls, and we had everybody on a Zoom video screen, it was awesome. I opened up and I said, hey guys, I got to tell you, like, I feel pretty good about these places. I don't feel that great about these places. And I got to tell you, I'm not sleeping as well as I'd like to. But just that, it's like, it's okay to not feel 100% about this, because nobody feels 100% about this. So I think it's very important from a leadership standpoint that we come from that angle. Will you do me a favor and repeat your exact question? Because I had it.
What's the appropriate amount of time before we start really proactively driving new business? Because Big Dogs isn't going to lose as many people as like the random coach on the side. And when is it okay? And how do where do we follow in suit? Like, what does that look like when, because I personally have a hard time wanting to market services at all right now. Because it's like, oh, really? You're that guy? Are you that thirsty? Right?
Yeah.
But there's coaches who need money.
Mm-hmm. I think if I look at what we're trying to do on both the Big Dogs and the OPEX side, I'll use OPEX as an example, just because we have so many people that are tremendously going through this, you know, coaches and gym owners in this exact moment. They can still buy our products, right? We can sell them online and we can sell them through our sales team. However, our number one priority is to, and I'll try to use some of the language that I said to our team, our number one priority is to develop the most trusted and credible coaching education brand on the planet. Better than anybody. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have to tangibly show all of our audience that this is what we do. So for example, you know, on the OPEX side, we have a daily presentation followed by Q&A with Carl Hardwick, who's our COO, James Fitzgerald, who's obviously the founder, me as the CEO, and Georgia Smith, who is one of our great marketing people, right? And she's a coach herself. That shows just how important those coaching conversations are to our entire company. Now, some people might not agree with us. That's okay. We're not trying to serve everybody, but I can't tell you how much positive feedback we've gotten from coaches because we're giving them support. You can see it. You can feel it. We give a shit about our clients and we want to show them that. It's not that we didn't show them that before, but it's not realistic for us every single day for 10 years to be on an hour plus call with all of our coaches around the world, nor would it be beneficial to them, right? So principally, I think it's fine for sales to be made if your top priority is not making a sale right now. Now, if somebody raises their hand, it's like, I want to work with you. I want my sales team all over that person because this is a fucking business, right? Like we have to sell and sell product. But if you think about some of the posts, you know, on social media specifically that kind of piss you off, it's the post that's like, buy this product in a very inopportune moment for an outcome that doesn't fucking matter right now, right? So from a coaching scenario, if I tried to sell, what's an example? If I tried to sell like a max your back squat program right now, and all of these people are at home, they'd be like, go fuck yourself. Like that to me is a miss, right? But if I come out, and I'll tell you what we're going to do, right? Like we, at the end of 2019, we're partners with Precision Nutrition. We're able to buy Precision Nutrition courses from them. We bought a number of Precision Nutrition courses having no idea that the market was going to melt down. We are going to sell the PN course, but we're going to discount it even more. Because for those coaches who are at home and who want to learn and who have cash flow, it's like, man, imagine getting to do PN, right? Like at a discounted price while you're sitting at home. It's like some people might perceive that poorly. I get that. Yep. But we're doing it for the right reasons, right? And I think that's really important for coaches to remember that. It's like, help your people first, allow sales to happen second. And I think if you come across that way, and keep in mind, the less cash you have in the bank, the more aggressive you've got to be. And I get it, right? Like you have to eat. And so I don't think that you're wrong if you sell hard. You just got to know that in this moment, selling hard isn't going to lead you out of this with a better brand. And so I think if you can stomach it, build those relationships, build the brand, etc., because that's going to help people the most.
100%. And so happy that that's, obviously knowing the type of advice you would give, but to look at it from that angle, to look at like, am I coming at this with authenticity that I'm trying to help? Or am I coming at this where it clearly looks like I'm just trying to make some cash? Yeah. Right. And like, like you see it when you see a bad Facebook ad, you see it like, oh, they're just trying to make some money. Yeah. Right. Which is okay. Like, I'm okay with like you making money, but like, that goes back now if we went back to the story arc side to where it's like, oh, if you've been taking care of your people and you understand the time game and you understand the brand and what you're saying, like all this just works harmoniously together.
Absolutely.
I think the hard part is when we're in person, we're so used to trading the hour for the dollar in terms of price, and that when we get online, we forget that we still do that. Right. But it's different because it's like, oh, well, if I spend 2 hours programming for Jim and then I spent 4 hours working on social media posts, and then I did a podcast, there's like 7 hours of time. Ooh, and that only netted me back one client, right? Yep. It's like, oh, that was really expensive. So looking at the time thing, it's like, what's authentic to you and your brand, and what have you been putting out there? And are you serving people first?
Yeah. And I think I have little patience for this. So sometimes this is good, and other times, Sam, I got to check myself a little bit, but I have no patience for somebody right now who's losing a lot of clients who won't put in the work.
Oh,
so I think that like in this moment, I said this to you on our OPEX call earlier. It's like, there's going to be 3 buckets of time. There's this extremely, extremely volatile, uncertain. We don't know what is happening with the virus. We don't know how we're going to be locked down. Let's assume that lasts for like 2 to 4 weeks, right? Then you're going to have this like 2 to 3 month period where we might still be locked down, but it's going to feel boring as shit, right? Like, it's like, okay, we got to be locked down, and you know, the thing that we're flattening the curve. And it's like, okay, we're doing this stuff, but it's like, what am I going to do every day?
Right.
And then there's the third wave, which is the lockdown starts to release, but it's not going to release all in one day, because that would create the same issue that we're facing right now, because the virus doesn't die, right? Like, if anything, maybe the virus gets burned off in the summer, but then it could come back in the fall. So we're going to have to be careful around this for a long time. So I think like right now, everybody is willing to allow like the world to feel like it's burning down in flames.
Yes. Yep.
Because everybody's afraid. It's like, okay, I'll give you 2 to 4 weeks, right? Like, okay, you're a gym owner, you're taking me online, let's do it. Like 4 weeks, I don't give a shit. Hit me for my monthly bill. Let's go, right? After that, if you don't give them a good service, they're all either going to cancel or go on hold immediately. So I think that 30 days, and there's going to be some people who quit right away. Can't stop that. But the 30-day window, that will tell you how effectively you have coached your clients online. And I think that's where all of the opportunity is going to exist. Now, obviously, I'm looking for opportunities right now just because that's how my brain works, man. I used to be a trader, like, that's how my brain works. But I think from a fitness standpoint, she or he who wins the boring time, meaning they create great content, they care about their people, they're supporting their folks, all that, they're going to come out of this thing beautifully, because they would have survived the super volatile, like, okay, I got this much cash, I got to figure out my finances, blah, blah, blah. And they will have created a brand where I'm a huge, huge, huge believer in this, because it's so emotional right now. Whatever message we put out will be remembered by people. And that goes back to your last question, Sam. If I put out just an erroneous sales ad, that will be what the market remembers, because I'm emotional right now. So it's like, why does everybody remember where they were September 11th, 2001? Because a massive emotional event hit in 1 second, right? This might take a little bit longer, but the entirety of it is going to be an emotional event, and we will remember what you tell us in this emotional event. So if I can be, James Fitzgerald often says, the beacon, right? If I can be a true beacon of safety, belonging, and future, then the market will remember that, so that when all of these restrictions are lifted, they won't be able to hear anybody else. They're like, I want to go to that guy. That guy was legit when I thought the world was melting down.
Yep.
So it's super, super important. I've said that a lot on this call, but I think it is important, all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it too, and the guys, if you know me, you know that I don't say this out of being spiteful or mean, but we're going to come out of this in a spot where no one can ever say that they didn't have time to do something ever again. I couldn't do push-ups every morning. Why? I couldn't reorganize my closet. Why? Right? Like, I couldn't start on that side hustle. Why? Right? Like, we got given the gift ultimately of time. Mm-hmm. As crappy as this is. So like, yeah, when we talk about like, okay, this is the situation that we're in, we can't help it. Like, I'm sorry that business is really tough and it's a really scary time right now. All we can do is look at how do I respond and how do I move forward, so that way when we come out of this, I'm in a better spot than I was, so this doesn't happen again.
Yep, and to come all the way full circle back to my first point.
Yes,
that's why the moments of calm and the support system, where if you don't have any support system, I would highly encourage you to develop a support system. I heard this comment. Oh gosh, I can't remember who said it. I wish I could. I wish I could give them credit, but we're not probably going to quote unquote socialize and build relationships with hundreds of people. We're probably going to solidify the relationships with our top 10. So and the way that they position this is, think about your last 10 text messages, right? It's like, those are probably the people that you're going to solidify long-term relationships with. And so if you think about that from a business standpoint, if you can keep getting in front of people with a good quality, helpful message, you will become a part of that. I can't live without it. And so, Sam, to your point, it's a mindset. Like, I need to be calm. I need to be, sorry, that's not fair. That's the wrong language. I need to develop strategies to be more calm when I get upset, which will happen to all of us. I'm not immune. You're not immune, Sam, and nobody else is immune. So when you're feeling that way, I just can't implore you enough. You have to create strategies, which is why the support system is so beneficial, to ask yourself and to have other people ask you questions, because the moment you start asking questions, that fear starts to dissipate and you can make more quality decisions.
Yeah, man, this is what a great way to bring all this out. And I knew you were the person to help me express this. I've been sitting here mulling over how to have this conversation with coaches, but like, if it was just me talking at the camera, it would not have come across so poetically, and it would have been way harsher, because that's how I like to be coached personally. And so, but like, I want people to understand that, hey, while it is a scary time, we do have to like really like, hey, there's something to pay attention to. We got to take it, but we got to do it calmly. We got to do it with a tact. We got to do it with a plan, because we don't know how long this is going to be. And I knew you were the person to bring it through. Guys, if you're struggling or you're looking for what the next step is in your fitness career, or you're maybe wondering what this means, whatever situation you're in, check out the OPEX crew, check out the Big Dogs crew. They've been so good to us, not only as friends and partners, but they're honestly do such great things for the industry, whether it's their education system or them as a business. Please reach out to them if you're looking for that community, or you want to have the opportunity to talk to Jim on a regular basis, to learn, because the guy's a wealth of knowledge. Like, join up with their team, because it's such a powerful community. I love their education system, and I love that they teach coaches how to run a business on top of being great coaches and great programmers and great instructors in person to clients. Like, it's the whole package. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. It's so amazing to sit down and learn from you every single time, and I appreciate everything you do for us.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Sam, for having me on. I appreciate everybody listening, and best of luck out there. And I'll kind of leave everybody with this is, feel free to shoot me a direct message if you listen to this. I'm just Crowell Jim, I think, on Instagram, or find me on Facebook. But I hope you're doing well. I hope you're hanging in there. If I can help in some way, let me know, or let our team know. But I appreciate you having me on, Sam, and best of luck to True Coach. And you guys have been great too. So thank you guys too.
Thank you. Have a great day, y'all.